Hey everyone, this is Bass, Crafting for Mommy. We will be setting aside my diamond painting projects for a bit because what I'd like to share with you is how to use this diamond press kit. So this was available on HSN a month or a couple of months or so ago. And essentially this is a set of stamps and wonderful dies. I put mine on a magnetic mat, and it's all about creating vignettes just so you would have a view when you peek through a window. I forgot what the name is, but it has something to do with window scenes, whatever. And it's a series. It's an auto ship, meaning on every month or every other month a new set will come in, and then you can coordinate across the collection on this. All right, so we're going to do 2 cards today, but rather than going through the usual motion of stamping a scene and creating a card, what I would do is to use the stamps so that I can teach you watercolor techniques. And that essentially is what we are going to do today. We're going to make 2 cards because I definitely would like to color in. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I'd like to color in this scene. It reminds me of a Tuscan village, somewhere in Tuscany, or somewhere when you go from Paris and out on the outskirts in France. Usually during the springtime, there's a lot of yellow flowers that is just, you can see that miles away. Then you also have this beautiful tree. Oops, I think I have it backwards. Beautiful tree. So I'm going to start doing them and hope you guys can join me. All right. So to get started, we need a set of these stamps, and for those who doesn't have it, maybe just try to look in your stash if you have something similar. I bet you do, because these types of stamp and die sets are nothing unique. It's cute, but there's a lot of manufacturers who actually do this. Okay, so to get started, we are going to use this stamp set, again from Diamond Press. Now, if you don't have the very same thing, look into your stash. This type of die and stamp set has many iterations across multiple suppliers or craft companies. So just follow along in terms of what I am doing here, and I'll also try to check if HSN still have it. Just so if it's available, you can definitely pick it up. Okay, so we've got the stamp set. Whenever we have stamps, you need to have ink pad. But in this case, since I'm going to do some watercolor techniques with everyone, I think the only stamp pad that you need will be the one that's used for the sentiments. But for the main image itself, we are going to use this Marvy LePlume set. So I do have multiple of them. I don't think I have the entire set though, but I certainly have a lot. But we don't need the entire thing. So if you don't have it, don't worry. This can also work with your Spectrum Noir aqua pens. Just make sure it is water-based or water-based marker. So I would need only 3 colors from here. I'll be needing the green, yellow, and also there's tons of different blues in here. So you know what, let's do this. Okay, so only 3 colors for now. Oops, oh no, for my tree I definitely need a little bit more. I need a brown. So let me recap this. So you will need these colors. Any watercolor marker would do. So you would have the green, and in Marvy LePlume, these are Japanese made pens, and I love them for watercolor techniques because I do a lot of art impression watercolor stamps. So it has a very nice Japanese brush nib on the other side, and on the other side is a fine tip which is very good when you're doing detailed work or when you're going back to your image to add a little bit more of detail, bridge certain lines or gaps and so on. So we're going to use the green, blue, light blue in this case, it's number 10, number 5, which is yellow, and number 6, which is brown. Again, if you don't have the same thing, just get any blue, green, yellow, and brown marker. All right. Brushes, and in this particular technique I really want fine tip brushes, and this one is a very cheap set that I got from Amazon. It's named Art Lost. It's miniature brushes. Technically, this is what you use when you're doing those models, warship, planes, tanks. My dad used to do that back in the 50s and 60s, and he has a whole collection of it. And I usually see his stuff like something as very fine point like this. On my case, when it comes to watercolor, one of the key things that you guys need to know is that less water is the best route to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna have a mud if you weren't able to control your color combinations and where your color goes. So I am using 3 small brushes from this set. Do I have a number? Yes, it does have a number. Number 2 round, number 1 round, and number 4/0 round. Again, if you don't have the same thing, I will link Art Lost link below from Amazon, but you can use any fine point watercolor brush that you have. I commonly use this too. Okay. Watercolor cardstock. I cut mine in small things like this because, again, as I've said, I do a lot of the AI, what they call the art impression watercolor stamps, and I usually want to take it on the go with me whenever I go on vacation, you know, do a few when I get inspired in whatever I see. Water, and I don't want to spill on my craft area, so I put it in medicine bottles like this. I've got a pile here of scrap paper and also some of the mats and layers that we're going to use at a later time. Apart from the stamp set that we use, I do have my marquee folder, and I do have the nesting dies that they released a month or so ago on HSN when they released the marquee, and we're going to use these to make easel cards. Okay. Don't forget your glue. I've got 2 in here. A glue pen, Collall, which I do agree with with the lady from Crafter's Companion, their product or product development head, I believe, Leanne. This is definitely the best glue in the world. This I agree. I have a lot of you know, small pearl beads or resin that are like small things like this. We're going to use it in the center of the flowers at a later time. And then we also have our dimensional. All right, so let's get started. Let me just get my wet towel first and get things out of the way. I am pretty much organized in my life. I'm a classic type A, so my craft room and my desk needs to be clean just so my creative juices will flow and just so I can be productive. I'm one of those people who have a clean craft room majority of the time because I apply my clean desk policy on it. Okay. I'm thinking if I need some paper. All right, let's just use this because I don't want my craft mat to be stained with this pens. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to use some acrylic blocks. Get this now. Okay, let me just put this here a bit just so you guys can see it. I hope you can. Let me see if I can zoom in. Can you see? Let's put this marquee aside. Yep, I think this is good enough. Yeah, I think this is good. So first things first is that I do have a couple of watercolor cardstock, and let's just get on with stamping the two scenes that we're going to use. Now, the good thing about watercolor scenes is that you can, if you are like me, who I like to do multiple cards at a time, more of an assembly type, the good thing about this is that you can stamp it with watercolor pencils or inks, and then finish off the project at a later time. All you need to do is to reactivate the ink with water. Okay. So just do this. Just on the side. So I am doing the tree and also the scene onto different cardstocks. Okay, so first things first, this is what we do. Let me see. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit disorganized today. Okay, so for this particular scene, I like to color the sky blue, the fields primarily green, particularly the shadows, where I think the shadows will be, or the lines of the fields, and then put in a bit of yellow, because I'm imagining it from what I've seen whenever we drive from Paris to the countryside of France, where you have rows, fields and fields of those yellow flowers there. I think what I've heard is that those are the flowers that gets you canola oil. Don't quote me on it, but I believe that is what it is. So look what I'm doing in here. I am using these pens as my ink pad, but the most important thing, just so you're not gonna damage the nib, guys, the most important thing that you do is that you lie it on its side and then color your stamp like so. Okay, so I am done with blue. Let me just check if I can adjust you a bit. All right, the greens, if you look at the stamp, for reference, especially if you're doing this for the first time, for reference, if you look, there are on the far end of the spectrum, there are bunches of trees, and those are the things that I really want to have a little bit more of color. Those are my darks and my shadows, where I'm going to concentrate the green color, or the green ink. So just tracing, there's nothing rocket science on this. Just lie your pen on its side, trace, put a bit more color when you're seeing those trees. There you go. And then a little bit lighter touch, particularly on the end when I like my shadows on the other side. Okay, that's green. Now yellow, because I'd like to alternate my scene with greens and yellows. So whenever it fades a bit, where it's supposed to be the highlights, that's where I put my yellow colors. And don't worry, I mean, I'm not damaging my my nib in here. This is something that I can easily just brush or clean by rubbing the felt, this Japanese nib, onto a damp cloth or paper towel, just so I can erase the green stuff. Okay, all right, now let's get this back. And in this case, all you need to do is to stamp it. There you go. So let's put that aside, and what we'll do is that we're going to do this one next. Again, the trunk of the tree, I'd like to color brown. The grass underneath, I'd like to color green, and then everything else is green. Later on, we can put other colors in here, particularly on this area where it's a little bit light, like there's no indentation on it, therefore nothing will stamp. We can introduce other color on that at a later time. Same thing, put this in and press. You don't need to press hard, unlike the other stamping techniques that we used to do, because the goal is not to have a very crisp image. The goal is actually to have a blurred image that would look like watercolor. So let's get that started. So let me just clean this up first, just so I can put it back, because I usually want to organize my stuff as I go, because when you leave it, sometimes it's easy to lose it. See how much ink was left in there after stamping just one image. There you go. Very good. Okay, now let's start. So I am going to use the smallest brush at this point. Now it takes longer to be able to blur the lines, but from my end I like it because I've got more control over the amount of water that I put in, so it's not, my stuff's not gonna get murky. So just put it in water, make sure that your brush is clean, and what I do, I want to have a paper towel with me, and once I dip it, I actually take majority of the water off, because I don't want it to be soaked in water. So all you need to do is to just pull the colors out, blur the lines, as we is the goal for this particular technique. So see, there's so much color on wherever the stamp have made an impression, and you just need to draw out those colors. Let me just first check if you guys can see me in here. I think you can, right? All right. Can blur the lines. Okay. So see, once you blur those lines and actually make those colors pool a bit without losing the structure, you are achieving a watercolor look. So this is perfect. This technique is perfect for people like me who has zero skill or talent in drawing. That's one thing that I would, if I've got superpowers, I'd like to be able to paint and to draw brilliantly, but unfortunately I am the total opposite, so I am not that creative. So I was able to get around it by getting stamps where I can build scenes or have scenes like this, and just do the watercolor technique by coloring them in watercolor markers or pens, and then apply the brush strokes that would give me that particular look. Okay, so see, what happened was, when you activated it with water, did you guys notice that it intensified? In terms of color, the intensity is more bright. Okay, all right, so that's done. So if you notice, the technique that I did is that I have just moved with a damp brush, just move the water, move the ink, I would say. Okay, others would actually go out of the lines just so they can have a bit more of a halo effect, but I am going to do that with a different color later on. Okay, now let's go to the grass. For this to look natural without losing the texture, what you do is that you flick, see, damp brush, flick, and erase those harsh lines, and vary the length of your flicking. So see the difference? this has a more watercolor effect because there's no harsh lines, and you essentially diluted or dissolved the water by introducing color, the pigment. This one is harsh lines, very much just a regular stamping image. Okay, doing the same on the other side. What you guys do as well, there's a lot of color in here, pull it down. And if you are not happy with that, oops, here it is, my palette. On any acrylic block that you have, put in a bit of this color. This is the color green that I'm putting in. And just slide. Okay, make it uneven, just because nothing in nature has harsh lines on it. So just make it like a pool, and it would look good when we are trying to frame it later on using the dies. Why can't I talk today? All right, let's go now on the trunk. So what you guys need to do is to make sure that your brush is clean, no residue of the green watercolor, and activate the color brown on the trunk. Now I know my brush here is too small for the job. It takes longer time to do this, but I like that better. That's my personal preference. Even though I'm impatient, I'm trying to be patient in these kinds of things because I don't want to end up with mud. All right, okay, now I want a little bit of a sky, so let's put a bit of blue. This is the number 10 light blue, and oops, in this case I would not mind getting a bit more help in my larger brush. Dilute it more with water. Like, I don't want a very strong color on this, so what you do, bit in here, just so you know, you could really see through. Let me take away a little bit of the pigment, it's too strong. Okay, all right, so that's done. So let's set this aside and do this one. So same colors. We would put whatever it is, whatever color we need on the palette later on. Okay, so okay, same technique. I wanted to use my smaller brush again, just so I'm not gonna introduce too much water. Okay, all right, so we will start off with the sky. Again, trace the lines and drag the color out. What's good about this technique is that if you're new to coloring and you're still trying to build your techniques when it comes to highlights, shadows, to make your image dimensional, this is an excellent thing to practice on, because where the colors or where the stamp is automatically becomes the shadow, which is rightfully so because they're on the edge. And then the folds are usually belong to where shadows would also lie, and then when you're dragging out the color, then those become midtones, and where you run out of color like this, where the white peeks through, then that usually is where the highlight. So apply the same principle when you are coloring, and you know, this would help. Okay, same thing here. Drag. I'm using circular motions, following the lines of the stamp, and then when there's a little bit of extra color, just put it like that. Okay, again, drag, circular motions. Okay, make sure you blur the lines. In watercolor, usually the lines are blurred. There's no harsh lines on it. That's what the technique is all about. And then usually the artist manipulate color and water just so they can command where the color and what the pigment would look like and where it would go in their painting. Okay, and whenever I'm doing that, I need to remind myself that I need a bigger brush, otherwise it's gonna take me forever. Okay, whatever leftover blue that you have from the previous, and just use it. Kind of want my horizon to be like this. Okay, this I'm a little bit bothered about. It's still too strong, so you know what I do? This is what I use to drag it out and color the rest of the sky lighter blue using colors underneath there. Use it like a palette. There you go. Okay, so let's go back to the tiny brush, and let's start with the fields. Now what I would like to start with is that I'd like my greens and dark greens to show through, like for this side, where you have the trees on the horizon. So all I'm doing is touching the color and dragging it out. Follow the lines of your stamp, because this portion of the horizon would usually appear darker. Similar in real life, if you've got trees way far out that is in the horizon, usually those are big trees and it will appear to be like shadows. Okay, I don't want the trees to have a harsh line under them, but I still want them to look like trees. So if you notice, what I did is that activate the water on the stamped image and just follow even the height. You don't want to make it high if it's not, otherwise the perspective might be off. Okay, just follow the lines. Follow the lines. Okay, so see, with such small line and such small impression of an ink, you actually get so much color on it, and we're going to use that to our advantage more later on. But what you do for each of this, blur those lines and spread the color. I love that this is becoming to be more of yellow green. Do you remember what we did in here? We actually stamped the image using green ink where it's closer to the horizon line, and then where it is nearest, like what we did here, we substituted it, we put yellow instead, so it becomes yellow green when you activate it. Okay, again, horizon line, blur the trees. Do the same thing here. And what I'm doing is that I'm just touching at the tip of my brush the stamped image, and with very little water this happens. And the less water you have, the more control you have on the image that you're trying to blur out. Okay, so if there's one key takeaway that I like you guys to have or to remember on this particular technique, or at least on this particular video, is me being repetitive on using less water on your stamped image. Flick using circular motions on the side, flick using circular motions. Same with this. Okay. Okay. Now on this particular end, drag it out. Don't be shy about dragging it out more and more, just so it's good, just so the field would look more not natural, but softer image, which is always lovely when you're doing watercolor. I'm not sure if my lighting is good. Might need to do something about that on our next tutorials, especially if you guys like this kind of thing. On my free time, I always love, you know, making my own card toppers or card fronts using watercolor images that I made like this. Primarily use art impression stamps, but on my other stamps, I always try to look at it differently in a way that can I use it on techniques like this, and you'll be surprised. Most of them you can. Okay, this isn't much yet at this point, not happy with that. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna start introducing yellow. This has a little bit more of green on it from the beginning, so haven't cleaned it up yet, but that's fine because we're gonna use that to our advantage. All right, small brush again this time, and I'm gonna fill in the gaps with yellow, very lightly though, like okay. It's okay to have to do it bit by bit. If you notice, I'm dipping my brush often on the water because, again, space is tight on this stamp. So the last thing I want is to have so much of an overlap on the edge where it is darker like this versus the fields, because I really want that edge to be a little bit sharper or have more concentration of green color, because that's how I remember those fields. Okay, we need more of this yellow because now we're gonna go on this side. Put more water in here. So see, any acrylic block that you actually have, you can use it as a palette. So most likely you have a lot of these things already on your stash, and you can begin to create this soon as my video is over, or what I would suggest, pause it and then let's do the project together. And drag it out, drag it out, drag it out. Okay, I just want to have a good you know, my color not to be harshly cut when we're going to try to frame it later on. Now in between, I'm also doing this, but I'm also following the lines of this image just so the shadows and the highlights like this would be preserved. More yellow. You know, with this technique, guys, pens like this would last you a lifetime. Look how little we're using it. Okay. Okay. Now there's certain areas that I'd like to go back to have a bit of green, or to re-emphasize the green color that we have. So hold on a second, let me just get this. So I put a bit of green. This is where I need to be very careful, because I don't want to reintroduce the harsher lines that I blurred earlier, but just a bit of refinement in there. There you go. Okay. Now go back to the blue. More water. Yikes. No, I don't want that. Erase. There you go. Very light. Okay. Alright. Now, don't worry about this, because I've looked into the window that we have. It's small. So we are not going to be able to put all of this on view. It's only a small portion of it. Let's see. This I'm going to use for this. So see, I mean, a lot of these things are going to be cut. Or maybe this is better for this. What do you guys think? Is this the same? No, I think I like this better for this. And then this one would be for this. I want it to be a little bit off center. What do you think? Yeah, I think this goes with this. This goes with this. Okay? And we are done watercoloring for now. But what I would suggest, guys, is that when you do this, try different iterations of this and see what color combination you'd like to make. Okay? Alright. So now let's go and see how we are going to cut this, because this definitely, I think we might need to fussy cut this because there's no die. The only die that I have is to cut out the window. Okay. Mikey, let me go back and make sure that you have enough more space. Okay, I think this is better. So let's do our die cutting then. Die cutting. Where am I gonna go? Okay. So I have my marquee folder. So for those of you who don't know, or who have not done die cutting before, so these are machines that apply pressure on your material that you're die cutting, and also on metal die cut items like this, just so you could cut through it. I'm not sure if my explanation made sense, but you know my drift. Okay, so this windows will be the star of my card, and I'm going to make petite easel cards out of this. So I want this in really beautiful material. So I actually have this holographic cardstock I am an addict on Hunky Dory cardstock. They call this the Mary Mats, and Hunky Dory is one of the biggest brands in crafting, paper crafting specifically, and they're based in the UK. In my opinion, UK, England have the best paper by far. So let's see if I can squeeze in 2 in here, just so I'm not gonna waste. Can I? No, it's too tight. I do not want to waste that. Okay. And all you need to do, so if you're new to die cutting, your die cuts have this metal die cuts actually have or die cutting plates as they call it. Die cuts is the output of this. So die cutting plates have a ridged side. You're not gonna get you know, wounded, or your finger's not gonna get sliced by just touching these, but applied with the right pressure, this will cut through any material or most of the materials that you have in your craft room. And it also, the material that it will cut through will also depend on the pressure of the machine that you're going to use it with. So my experience, my Gemini from Crafter's Companion is the top notch, the creme de la creme of die cutting machines. But if you want very easy quick cards like what I'm doing in here, you don't need to drag that bulky thing, and that is what the marquee, the diamond press marquee, is for. So metal ridged, the one with indentations, put it on top of the material you're gonna cut, and then the right side up. This is the beauty of marquee, is that all you need to do is a folder, and then you run it through. This is cardstock. I doubt if I need to run it through, but again, but I would like to do so just to make sure that it cut through perfectly. Ooh, so cute. Oh, this is pretty. So pretty. Okay. Now, in just one pass, your folder will actually have this scratch marks. That's all right. I mean, that's part of the usage of this. I mean, and that's why these kinds of supplies are consumables. But I'm telling you guys, I had the smallest diamond press machine for years now. I'm cutting a lot, and the first one that I had, I just tossed a couple of weeks ago. I mean, even if it's, I can't even close it flat anymore, but it still works. Okay, this one, it's not really gonna fit. Okay, I will save that for later. So this, just want to cut it to size. Do it again. Ha! So pretty. Where is my... Hold on a second. I need to poke this to release it. You usually can see there are holes in there to release your paper. Oh wow! And it opens. Beautiful. Alright. Let me just toss this aside. Okay, so now we can easily see which is which. I think this is gonna be good for this, whereas this is good for this, right? Okay, so what we need to do then is to trace it, and to trace it very lightly with pencil. Okay. And since I'm going to actually have cut this straight edge lightly. Oops, did I just do that? Okay. Just marking the sides. And then this one, this I may need to fuzzy cut. Okay. As much as I can, I want to use my cutter on that. I don't trust myself in cutting things straight. Let's just put this on the side. Put these beautiful things on the side. So it's okay to extend because you're gonna cut it. You just don't want to have white space where white space is not needed. Okay. So where's my mark? There you go. I failed. Let's toss this aside. This will then be this. So pretty. Do I need to cut more? Yeah, let's cut more a bit on this side. Just a teeny bit. Okay, and this should be perfect. So pretty. Okay, now this one. This and this. So I think let me just cut the base. I wish Diamond Press have provided like, you know, things like this, just so we can easily cut the view that we're trying to make. So what I'm gonna do is to just fuzzy cut this. I hate fuzzy cutting. There's my definition of things I don't like to do. Fuzzy cutting will be on top of the list, simply because I don't trust myself that I'm gonna do a good job on it. Ha! There you go. Sit. Okay, I think I need to get more out of there, and I need to extend actually the blue one, the blue color. See, I told you, that's why I don't want to fuzzy cut. Look what happened in there. Okay, let me extend the blue one in there because I think it would be nice if you have a good horizon. To do the blues. Let's set this aside. Where's my brush? Yaks. I think we need a bigger brush for this. Can't get away with it, otherwise the color will not easily blend. We're gonna have harsh lines, which we don't want. Okay, and if you are making a mess like I do, just make sure you have a towel handy. Okie dokes, there you go. Now we can easily make our card bases. Okay, all of it using my key. Okay, so I actually have already pre-selected my colors. So for this and for this, I am going to, all right, okay. So for my tree, I want, you know what? Now I'm having second thoughts now. I don't want something that will distract them. So this would be for this. This is going to be my layer, just so it would look like, you know, wallpaper inside the home. And then some of the, most likely this is the matting, right? And I think this would look good like this, or the other way around. Yeah, I think the other way around would work. Whereas this one, I'm worried that if I put this, it might be too strong, but seriously, it isn't. It really isn't. It's actually nice. Okay, we're gonna be bold with this, with the green. Okay, so what I'm going to do is an easel card. Guys, it's so easy to do easel cards. You don't need to be intimidated by it. And what I'm going to show you is any die, concentric die that you have, you can make an easel card out of it. So for this particular case, I want this and this. So these are nesting dies, by the way. These are nesting dies from Diamond Press that they made available as well. And then this is for the circle one. Okay. So I want my card to have a fancy shape, and it's going to be square for the square. So this is just an ordinary, quite flimsy card base. However, I'm not afraid to use it because this solvent-based glue, actually when it hardens, it makes your cardstock very, very strong, which is unbelievable. So I am not afraid to start using this flimsy stuff that I would have otherwise not used. So okay, so anytime that you use any die cut or any die like this and make it an easel card or a fancy shaped card, all you need to do is to make sure, I need a washi in here. Okay, what we need to do is to make sure that we let's leave a bit just so it wouldn't cut, but we need to leave this a bit, and we are going to need to tape this. Now I think this might be too big for the Diamond Press. Is it? No, it would work. Huh. Oh no, it won't. Oh no, I don't want to destroy this. So since I'm going to cut this anyway, this side, might as well start cutting it so it won't fit, because otherwise it will not fit to my Diamond Press. There you go. So by using your dies and doing it that way on a folded card with the other side not cutting, you're actually going to be able to make fancy shaped cards all day, any day. So gently. I know I'm excited, but I need to be gentle on here. Nonetheless, so look, right? Cute. And then on the other side, or on the other card, I mean, we are going to use the circle. So let me just do the die cutting on my stuff. So it's the same thing. You guys should leave enough space in there just so you can. You don't want that to be cut. Same thing. It's not gonna fit in my marquee. Run it through. Okay. Okay. Now we're gonna do like assembly line type of okay. So now in cases like this, all right. Did I set that aside? Where did my paper go? Oh, okay. So in this case then, what I wanted to do is also to cut in the front of this that we can adhere, and then this is going to be the layer. Okay, same goes with this. So again, bear with me, same die, because I want the entire thing to be covered, just so it's even. Run it through again. On this side, we are going to run it through this. Go. So if we're going to do an easel card like this, we are just going to score this on the half, what am I saying, midpoint of this cover, and same with this. So let's just make this very quick. We don't need anything fancy with this. That's my scar. There you go. So all you need to do, guys, is to, let me just put this aside. This is what happens when you craft. I mean, the entire desk explodes with clutter. Okay, so this is my front, the front of my card, and I want it to be half, folded in half. Put some tight crease on it, and there you got the mechanism. Same with this. All you need to do is to fold this in half. Oops. Okay. There you go. And we are going to start our assembly. No. Okay. So when you are assembling this kind of cards, you are only going to stick it on this side. Why? Because if you stick it in here and you try to fold it, I think I was off camera, right? So what I was saying is that when you're doing this kind of cards, you only need to stick your stuff in this on this side. The reason being is that if you do stick it across the board, you're not going to be able to fold it like this. Okay, I'm using my Collall glue, just enough. I mean, this is so strong and I love it. I love it for that quality. And line it up properly. What I do, this is what's good when it comes to glue, is that you can play and make sure that you have the perfect placement on this before you press it down. Okay, here we same with this. Again, put it on this side. Okay. And I try to find where it aligns. There. Is it the same? Yes, it is. It is. Okay. So from this point on, I'm going to walk you through how I assembled the rest of my card together with a little bit of fast track, just so we can speed things up a bit. So I'm using foam dots to be able to adhere those frames to my vignettes. I used Collall, a touch of Collall on each of those foam pads, just so it's gonna give extra strength, and it will weather the time that it is going to be mailed to family and friends. Now I'm using the rest of the smaller die cut elements that came with the kit. I have the grass, I've got the windowsill, and I am also going to die cut the flowers. What you'll notice, what I did here is that I put 3 layers of paper and cardstock, pass it to twice through the marquee, and it cut perfectly. So things small like this, I really don't have the patience to cut it, one after the other. So it just needs to be multiple times, multiple layers, and it cuts beautifully, either one pass, a single pass, or a double pass. I am just amazed how powerful the marquee is. I did the same when it comes to those stems and leaves, and I just used some printed green paper for that. And off to the final assembly. So this is me again popping it up through adhesive foam squares, but then again with a touch of Collall. I am using my Xyron sticker maker to be able to manage putting adhesive cleanly on those small bits and pieces, specifically the flowers and the stems. Those are so small. The only way to get it done cleanly is through a Xyron machine, in my opinion. I love my Xyron. I've been using it for years. And what I'm doing is that I'm just layering all those petals, blooms, and leaves on top of each other. I managed to die cut a few of them or several of them in such a short period of time. So I'm just putting it in there, layering it in, just so it would look beautiful. Was able to manage to see a couple more on my desk, so I still attached it. Now I have used the shiplap die to use for my sentiment. So am using the sentiment thinking of you in this. I'm doing it twice because I've got two small cards in here. And what I did is that I popped it in foam squares because those are going to be my stoppers for the card. I also managed to find two more blooms on my desk. So what I did is that I adhered it on the side just to give a little bit more of interest. Now this is my diamond painting skills coming into play on card making. So all those pearls, resin pearls, I'm attaching each one of them at the center of my flowers using my glue pen. That is a Martha Stewart glue pen that I had for years. I'm not sure if it's still available, but if it is, all you need to do is to press. It will dispense the glue, and that glue is strong. I love it. So there, done. And here it looks like two cute, super cute and easy to make easel cards showcasing the watercolor technique that we did on the stamp. So this is the square one with the Tuscan scene. I love how those flowers turned out, especially with the pearl um, at the center. I know, it's so cute. It's super cute. And this is the other one, a little bit simpler, but it's the unusual shape of the card that speaks volumes. There you go. Thank you.